And gotta tell you, I think we're in trouble. I think we got some some trust issues to deal with. Oh man, how you doing this morning? Hey, morning. It is Tuesday morning. Hope you're doing well. I am. I woke up this morning energized, excited. Sometimes it's tough, right? Sometimes it's tough. Sometimes things get in your craw. You get ideas about certain things, start becoming suspicious of them, right? Suspicious of them. But yeah, it's we're going to talk about trust issues today. Talk about it, the big picture things, the things we see as a much more broader than us, politics and corporate America. But we're also going to talk about personal trust issues and how it shapes us. And better than that, man, better than that, we're going to talk about how to fix it. You ready for this? Let's go ahead and dig into this. So, what is it? What is it? What is a trust issue? What does it look like? Well, for me it was anger. I didn't like to be around people, didn't trust people, didn't want to tell them who I was, didn't want them to see my flaws, right? Didn't want them to see my flaws. And of course, that worked out to the negative for me. Yeah, I got good at it. I got good at being a bully. Not really a bully. I never picked on anybody, but being really kind of hard line. And I would look for that fight, right? I would look for that fight. And look back now and I think, damn, that didn't make any sense because it didn't. But think about it. What sense did it make for me to be so suspicious of other people, to have issues with trusting other people, that I would actually spend my entire life committed to the idea that someone was out to get me? Because I mean, when you really think about it, that's what I did, right? That's what I did. I had the idea that someone was out to get me, and so I was hyper vigilant, and I did all these things, and it was good. It was good stuff to do in itself, but it sure did, it diminished the quality of my experience. Right? Kind of hard to be on guard all the time. It really is, and I was taught it. I mean, that's how I survived in prison, by paying attention to what the hell I was doing, which is an important thing to do in prison, is to make sure that you stay alive, right? But I wasn't free from that. I didn't feel the true freedom until I was able to actually establish what and who I should trust. It's really what it's all about. Let's talk about it. All right, so let me just tell you this right off the bat. Let me just say this right off the bat. Listen, if you got the idea that I'm some sort of psychoanalyst or some sort of, I got a degree, I don't. This is purely and totally conjecture. This is purely and totally stuff that I've experienced in my own life, things that have worked in my own life, and I'm kind of throwing them out there. So don't get all weird on me. Go, oh, who does he think he is, a doctor? No, I'm not. I'm not anything like that. So let's get right to that. But the observation is still the same, right? The reason we don't do the things we would like to do, or the things we think about doing, or the things other people are doing that we see possible value in, is because there's some issue with our ability to trust someone. And in most cases, it has to do with us. Think about it. If you decide or don't decide not to move, you love the mountains, but you also love the beach, and you're sitting there and you're in your life, and you've been doing your life for a while now, and it's right about at the end of its shelf life as far as the energy level goes. And you come up with this idea to like, all right, I'm going to move my life to the beach. Where do you find the energy to do that? You find the energy and believing you can do it. Believing that no matter what happens, you can do what you're going to do, and that's going to work out great for you. And then, of course, the result of that is that as a result, you do that thing, you do that one thing, and you continue to think about it, and you take action on it. Before you know it, you're running towards it, and it's right there in front of you, and you grab it. And the reason you're able to step forward is because, despite the fear, because there's a lot of fear in doing shit no one else is doing. I believe me, I understand it completely. I know exactly where I am when it comes to the fear thing. I'm nervous as hell all the time. I think, man, I suck, especially given the interaction. Think about it. I'm not the most interesting YouTube guy out there on the market. I'm not building these entourages of content that have all of this stuff. This is a conversation. And the interesting part about that is that's something that we don't do nearly as much as we should. We don't do nearly as much as we should. And the question is why? You ain't got time. You don't have time for you. Come on. Who are you kidding? You don't have time for you. You're too busy scrolling and looking at this and talking about that and doing this and headed in this direction, which is a great idea. And you should be moving like a bat out of hell. I guarantee it. I applaud that part of it. But where we fall down is when we choose the wrong crap to do. I don't know about you, but drinking and driving, that is a no-win situation for so many reasons, right? I don't understand it. And I've done it. I'm not a saint. I can't say for 1 minute that I've never drank alcohol and drove. But I guess at this point, maybe it's just a matter of having enough time to think about my choices. But one of the choices I always remembered, I always kept in my mind was, getting a DUI would cost me. It would cost me a good portion of my life. Right? There we go. All right. We'll get to you now. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's move this thing forward. Trust issues. Let's talk about how you can use trust issues to get you exactly where you want to be when we come back. All right, so hypothetically, let's just say that you are into what I'm saying. You are looking at me, you're like, yeah, that guy's right. Yeah, he's right. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm getting to him. The message is getting out there, right? Let's say that you agree with it. What would be the first step that you would have to take in order for you to actually enact some act of change in your life? What would be a good place to start, do you suppose? Do you suppose? I mean, think about it. What would be a good place to start? A good place to start might be by thinking about something that's better than where you are, or maybe thinking about something that's really bad about your life and saying, you know what, I think I'm gonna step that one up just a little bit. That'd be a good place to start. What would that look like? You want to earn more money? You want to earn more money? You want to stop struggling financially? I think that would be a good plan. How would you do that? Well, you'd think about where your money's going and what you're doing with it, and then you're going to move from that to where you want it to be. How would you like it to be? How can you what can you imagine your life would be and what it would look like once you have your money situation satisfied? Maybe you need an extra $1,000 a month. How would you do that? Well, you could do it by not spending so much. That'd be one way to do it. The other way might be to earn more, right? But then you think, oh, what a pain in the butt. I have to get an extra job. Well, if you look at it like that, the answer to success is probably not likely. But then again, you throw back in that attitude, that idea about what it would do for you. Think about it. Think about if you made an extra $1,000 a month for a single year. You just sacrificed. You're 22 years old. You don't have any money. You'd like to have $12,000 in the bank, so you sacrificed. You got a second job and you worked for 12 hours. I mean, worked for an extra $1,000 a month and you got it and you put it in the bank every month. At the end of the year, you'd have a $12,000 kitty. Imagine what you could do with that. You could enjoy part of it, but you could also parlay part of it. You could turn part of it into something really cool. Like, well, all right, well, that's half of a way to a cash payment on a vehicle. And maybe not. I mean, that's just given where we are right now. I mean, that's probably not likely, but it's still a goal. And why do you suppose we're not doing it? Why aren't we rocking and rolling it? Why aren't we waking up every day going, hell yeah, here we go, let's do this? Well, as it turns out, it's because we're not looking at it. I mean, think about it. How much time have you spent in the last 12 hours thinking about where you are and where you're going to be? Not in oh, my life's crap, this is how it's going wrong, but moreover, this is what I'm going to do in the next 5 days to make it better, make it right, get it better than it is right now. You got to answer that question, and you have to have a question to answer every day you open your eyes. That's how it all starts. But you got to trust somebody. I guarantee it. All right, so you got to trust somebody. Who would be the most likely candidate? Who would be the most likely person that you would want to trust? I'll give you a minute. Think about it. Who would be that number one person that you'd be like, oh yeah, I kind of trust them. Who would be and more importantly, who would be the one person you could trust with everything you have, and they would let you down, but you'd also have the advantage of being in full control of the direction of that person. No way, right? No way. What? That's all this conversation is really about, right? Who are you in control of? Who you have 100% control of every minute of every day? You do. Who do you run? Who makes your decisions for you? You do. Why are you where you are right now? Why are you sitting where you are right now? I asked that. I asked John. John's a homeless guy. He was digging in the trash can. I came out there and gave him a little bit of advice, trying to keep him out of trouble. And but I asked him. I says, why are you where you're at? Why are you where you're at? And he had all of these reasons that could be fixed, or so. I mean, the story he had told. He said, "Well, I don't do drugs." I said, "Well, are you an addict?" He goes, "No, I just don't have benefits." And he was former veteran. He was a Marine, and and the question that I had that comes with that is, where do you find the incentive from there to change it? We say, well, he's homeless. Where do you find the incentive? I mean, apparently the bottom line is this: the story is this: that man is there because he is lacking the ability to function on some level, right? Of course, you think about what's going on in the world and all the things that are going on in the world. We're all we got our trust in a lot of the wrong places. I mean, here just an example for you. Not trying to make any enemies, but here's an example for you. Donald Trump, global warming. Donald Trump said that global warming didn't exist. I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in the archives. And there were a lot of people who said, "Oh, global warming didn't exist." And in that, we see it's happening, and no one goes, he's a liar. Can you imagine if someone you work with lies to you? You don't want to take them out back and you want to kick their ass, right? Your friend, you're asking him, where you been? And he lies to you, tell you some lie about some snidely thing he's been doing, right? You take him out back and you whip his ass, right? Because he's lying to you, right? And yet we accept it because, well, therein lies the questions because of who we trust. What would happen if you put all of your trust in you? You said, I'm not going to listen to anybody else. I'm going to learn my own stuff. I'm going to pick my own direction. I'm going to wake up every day and I'm going to take 5 or 10 minutes a day just to think about me, to think about where I'm going, what I want to do. 10 minutes, a prayer, maybe a prayer to the universe, a prayer to God, whatever it takes for you to get that ball rolling every day. And then you're going to chase that thing. You're going to remind yourself of that thing, and every night you're going to evaluate it. And trust me, you can trust me. It's going to work. It will definitely work for you. And of course, the big question for anyone who's heard this conversation before, the big question is, how many people have ever tried it? Because that's where the resistance comes in. That's where the disbelief comes in. If you're not doing it, you ain't going to be able to tell how much good it'll do. We're going to talk about that. Now, this is a point that my son gets irritated about, and I can see why. I understand it. I ignore it. I don't let it get into my bubble too much. But here's a point that my son gets irritated about. So when he gives you advice, when you ask him questions, and then he gives you advice, and then you don't take it, kind of gets in his craw a little bit. It can get in his craw a little bit, and yeah, I guess so, right? But my conversation on that line is, what stops us from having someone say, hey, have you tried this? And they decide, oh, I think I'll try that. what is the connection between where you are now and where you would want to be based on the idea of, say, me or someone else? And the answer is thinking about it. See, you got to have a reason to keep that idea in your head long enough for you to execute on that idea, for that idea to become so plausible that you're able to actually take action every day on it. And how do you do that? You got to be able to imagine where you're going. If you don't have a destination, I guarantee you're not going to get there, right? And what do you do with that? Well, you start thinking about it. You start learning about it. You start dedicating time to understanding it. And before long, guess what's going to happen? Well, you're going to start getting excited about it. You're going to start talking, oh, yeah, this might be a good idea after all, right? It might be a great idea after all. That's how it starts. It's not rocket science. But you got to try something and you got to trust that it'll work. Yeah, we got trust issues. They extend far beyond you, though. We got trust issues with the world. There's another side of us that kind of gets us in trouble a little bit. And that is, for some of us, we infer our level of trust and our personalities onto people who are like us. And if they represent, and even if they're not like us, even if we don't know enough about them to be able to make that determination, we will infer that, oh, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do that. Well, maybe they would. Maybe they would. Either the world's getting bigger or our products are getting smaller, right? You didn't see anybody ask us if we were like, hey, listen, guys, we got to have a meeting. We want to sit around and talk about reducing the size of stuff. What do you think? You think it'd be a good idea? That's what we're planning. They didn't ask for our input on it. What do you suppose that is? What do you suppose they didn't get all involved? Get us all involved in that whole conversation about whether it's a good idea to make a box of crackers or some other product appear bigger than it actually is. Well, because we would have said no. And I guess my point is that's a trust issue, right? That's a trust issue. It's like, well, you gave me this. I bought a box, and then I get in the box, and the box is only 3/4 full. Wow, that's kind of weird. I wonder what happened there. I must have had some extra boxes before they shrunk the crackers, and had I been smart, I'd have got a video of it and posted it. But of course, you can't do that either, right? They're talking about the reality, of trusting people. Don't trust the government. Don't trust the whistleblower people to help you out. Because let's say that you do hypothetically find something in the world that is actually drastically wrong. There's this idea that, oh, we can do it, and the truth is we can't. I mean, you want to trust our judicial system. There's a flaw in our judicial system. If there's anything we might want to be suspicious of, it's the way our judicial system works. All about trust. All right, so let's talk about trust. So when you talk about institutions, here's the thing we fail to embrace, and that is the idea that that because someone is the way we are, that someone else, some entity would respond in a similar manner, and that's just not true. The reality is that there are some entities in the world that function on a different level than us. That is, they're not morally bound. Their job is to increase the bottom line, to sell products, to persuade, or to do the things they do that serve the people that they work for. And because these people make a lot of money, and there's a lot of money at stake, and really elegant lives are at stake as a result of that function, I got to tell you, we're kind of out of the mix on the whole thing. And I guess this has a point, and that is that explains why I say it's pretty much a waste of time if you spend a whole bunch of time looking at other people's lives. And the biggest reason for that is because, well, when you're doing that, there is nothing about your life that gets any better. There's nothing about your life that improves. In fact, there's a good chance, if you're not looking at your own life, there's a good chance your life is in a steady decline, because if you don't have a plan and action to establish a difference between the amount of money it takes to live and the amount of money you earn, you're on a steady decline. And you got to fix that, right? The reason we don't do it is because we don't trust in ourselves enough to make that happen. And that's the truth, right? And it partly it's because we don't stay in our own lane. And what does that mean? Well, it means that when you are focused on you, when you spend time thinking about you, you get better. And of course, the reason we're not getting better either individually or as a group is because we don't have time for us, and that's how it's designed, right? Think about it. When they handed you your phone, when you handed your kids your phone, you didn't say, "Hey, listen, here's the deal. Here's the deal. As a result of me giving you this phone, there, you're going to use it as an educational tool. This has the keys to the kingdom. This is teach you anything you need to know, allow you to learn to do or do anything you were ever inclined to do." Which I got to say is a pretty powerful thing, considering it fits in your pocket, right? Can you imagine how much different society would be? Imagine how much different society would be. But what did that device turn into? It turned into a way to influence us. They call them influencers for a reason. Hey, listen, I got an idea. Hey, why don't we all just run over here and do this? Oh, okay. All right, let's go. Hey, I'm on his team. Hey, I'm on his team. I do it. Yeah, I'd just be like him, just like him. I mean, I think that's probably, I mean, I guess it's fine. It has to be because that's the way it is. But my question is, again, is what the hell is that doing for you? Now, let's just change the scenario. Let's say that whole same thing is a going on, but you are diehard involved in it for personal growth. You are like, the reason you're there is because there's something beyond that. That's where you want to be, right? That's how everything needs to be. And it's all about function. It's about the value of the things that we put our effort into, our time, our money into. It settles in on trust. We're gonna bring this thing back to you. We're gonna talk about your partnership, that life you share. Stick around. I got to say, I'd be remiss if I did not include a conversation about relationships and trust issues. The reality is this: relationships are hard, and the last thing I would ever suggest anyone do is get the idea that because of whatever they tend to believe or whatever they think that there aren't going to be rough times. There's no steadfast solution, because you got to remember that is only based on where you currently are. And if your relationship it has a lot of dysfunction to it, a lot of things going on in it that are like difficult, then it's gonna be a minute. It's gonna take a second. But the cool part, the good news is that eventually you're gonna get there, and it all starts with that conversation and that constant thought about what you're working toward. See, the reason teams don't work out is because we're like sled dogs, and we're sitting there and we're in this space and we're pinned to this thing, and we don't get a move, and it just drives us nuts. And what that direction of movement, how that's defined, is not by the world or by what the world tells us we need, but it's by what inspires us. I'm an advocate. Let me just say this right off the bat. I'm not ashamed to say it. If you're a fisherman and you don't own a big ass boat that gets out more than your lawnmower, because the other issue is if you have a big boat and you love fishing that much, I'm trying to figure out why you would have a lawn. I mean, think about it. And the reason you have a lawn is because you trust that that's a pretty good decision. You're looking around and everybody else is doing it. Well, then it must be a pretty good decision. That's based on it. That's a trust decision. But if you look at the reality of it, is that actually the truth? Is that actually where we are on this whole conversation? The answer is no. No. You certainly aren't getting your money's worth if you're mowing the lawn thinking about how you'd like to be fishing. You're certainly not getting your money's worth if you're over there pulling weeds or shoveling gravel and you want to go fishing, or you like to go hiking and you wish you could go in the house and work on your artwork, your podcast, or whatever other thing that is that you would love to do, right? And of course, why don't we do it? Why don't you do it? Well, it's because you don't have time to do it. You don't have time to think about it. You're worried. I mean, trust issues. You're worried about where you are. You're trying to make sure that you keep the ship afloat where you are. You ain't got time for that. And of course, that comes down to acceptance. I admit, which makes no sense to me because think about it. What was one of the silliest things we've ever decided in our world to do? A decision we make that doesn't make a hill of beans sense. What is it? Well, we're waiting. We're actually set up to wait until we are old and kind of broken down, a little bit heavier than we should be because I can't say fat. Oh no. And then we retire. That's when the fun's supposed to start. Of course, is that the truth? No, not at all. Not always. Sometimes it is for Sandy and I because we stay busy. I'm not giving up the ghost. I'm going to tell you that right now. I am not giving up the ghost. I don't care. I don't care what comes. I'm working this thing, right? Which makes pretty good sense. The saddest moment of my life was when I walked into out off the beach, and here they are. There's a bunch of guys, and they're like beached whales at 2 o'clock, and they're all smart men, and they're drinking vodka, and it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the beach, and they're cocktail time. If you want to get moving, first thing you have to do is you have to trust somebody. I got an idea. It's you. Start trusting you, and it'll get a lot better, a lot quicker. Let's wrap this thing up. Holy cow, what a bit of work. Took me a minute. My studio shows, my live shows have been going a little bumpy. Been having a little trouble with the content. Just so you know, anytime I inject something new into the story, it tends to derail the whole thing. I thought I could do I was picking up some clips from the internet, but to try and do it, and of course it made it a little bumpy. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you're doing well. Hope you found some inspiration in it. Just to remind you, I'm not expecting you to take it all. I could be wrong. That's why I'm talking about it. That's why I'm thinking about it. But the reality is, how does it feel? If it doesn't feel great, you might want to ask yourself why. And then maybe if you're inspired enough, you could actually get to the point where you are ready to do something about it. What would that be? Just add a little juice. Get something exciting. Add something that actually makes you go, yeah, and it's not going to cost you. And before you know it, you're going to be there. But you got to trust somebody. And I don't know about you, but I'm thinking that you're probably the best candidate for that. So keep that in mind. Don't forget to check me out on YouTube. I'm going to try and pimp it out a little bit. This is also on YouTube and Podbean, all the major podcasts. I'm also doing the morning coffee. It's an hour. Basically, it's a run through, just kind of a training run for if you want to call it something. But stop in there. I talk about a few different things, practice some of my less talented skills, and get ready for the show. Don't forget to launch every action from kindness. I guarantee the person next to you is just like you. Till next time, my name's Chris Jaquez, and this is Your Best Life Defined. Have a wonderful day.